and former Secretary of State, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Mike Pompeo. Jayhawk, great to have you with us. I'm thrilled to have you with us, Mr. Secretary, and you would be the perfect person to have weigh in on a lot of the big issues that are happening right now. I want to begin by sharing a tweet from our Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. I think it's apropos, given what's happening in Los Angeles. It reads in part, the Defense Department is mobilizing the National Guard immediately to support federal law enforcement in Los Angeles. And if violence continues, active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton will also be mobilized. They are on high alert. Gavin Newsom says that's overkill, overreach, unnecessary. What say you?
Well, Kevin, look, this is common sense. This is basic law enforcement. What Secretary of Defense is talking about is bringing in folks to provide support so that we can do the fundamental duty of the government, which is to protect its law enforcement officers and its people from these violent assaults. We do all remember the summer of 20 where this got out of hand and the local law enforcement and governors just let the flames burn. This can't happen this time. And you see President Trump and his team taking the actions that are both appropriate and necessary to protect people. And if we don't support the folks that are doing the important work of securing our southern border, making sure everyone who is here lawfully, and then keeping people and property protected and safe, we'll end up in a really bad place again, and that is not good for the United States of America. So I'm pleased with the response to date. You should note, you were talking about the travel ban. These ideas are all connected. When you let completely unvettable, I'm not even sure that's a word, people you just can't, you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
When you let them into our country by the hundreds, you get precisely what you're seeing in Southern California today.
You know, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I think a lot of Americans have been saying for quite some time, Mr. Secretary, listen, they're coming over by the tens of thousands. Some have argued by the millions, completely unvetted. We don't know their health records. We don't know their names in many cases. This is not only unsafe, broadly speaking. This could be catastrophic for a nation that's already lived through a 9/11. And so this idea of finally saying, let's stop. Some of these nations need to get their act together, which seemed to be good policy.
Yeah, Kevin, when I hear what Congressman Jeffrey said this is racial or religious, that's just nonsense. They banned people from certain countries. Didn't matter what race they were, doesn't matter what religion they are. These are countries that don't have good record keeping, have no way to tell what someone's real name is. There's no scanning. These are random people. And we saw for 4 years, we saw hundreds and hundreds of folks on our known terror watch list, the U.S. terror watch list, come across our southern border. That is enormously dangerous. We saw the Chinese Communist Party just this past weeks try to bring in agro-terrorism into our country. You have to get this right. This security is elemental and basic. It's deeply consistent with our Constitution, and it is about time we get this right to reduce the risk for next year, a couple years down the road, and decades from now, when these folks have now embedded themselves in institutions in America, and they'll come back to haunt us as a security matter.
You know what, can I ask you about that? Because, again, given your unique experience, Secretary of State, ran the CIA, this is a man who's been the leader, the chief executive of state. He understands the inner workings of government. I'm just curious if at all you feel like we ought to cap or eliminate programs that welcome foreign nationals by the hundreds of thousands into this country each and every year. There seems to be a move afoot on Capitol Hill, Jayhawk. People are saying, listen, you're talking about seats that Americans, frankly, could have on college campuses. I recognize they pay full freight, but you don't know exactly what they're doing. A great many of them, including the pair you mentioned from Michigan, could be up to a number of very nefarious activities. Is it time for change in that perspective?
Kevin, I've been talking about this for years. I did see this both as CI director and then when I was America's top diplomat. 360,000 students a year from the Chinese Communist Party studying in the United States of America. That's a crazy number. And it's certainly the case that Americans could take those slots. But frankly, I'd be happy to have allied nations send some of their folks too, if that's what we need to continue to fuel our innovative economy. But to allow the Chinese Communist Party to infiltrate our institutions in this way, this was nuts. And I am glad President Trump is beginning to drag this policy back. We need to know why they're here, what they're studying, what they're doing with it is that they learn. They've stolen our intellectual property. They've come after us economically. It's time to reorder that balance. And I think the discussions that are being had this week between the trade representatives should be part of that. We should make very clear to the Chinese Communist Party that we're not going to turn the other cheek. We're not going to allow this to continue to go on. We're going to balance this relationship, and President Trump's made clear that's his intention.
Lastly, I just have to ask, because this is going to be a very big storyline moving forward this week, Mr. Secretary. People will be talking about this U.S.-China negotiation that happens over in London. We had a guest on earlier, Phil Kerpen. We were talking about the U.S. trying to somehow forge a deal with the EU. Again, we have a number of separate entities that are all trying to work together, and they're not even unified, I think is a fair, if gentle way to put it. How does this move forward, do you think, from the U.S. perspective? How do you, as a top diplomat, meet with your counterparts and explain to them that, yes, tariffs and reciprocity, as it relates to barriers to entry, is the way to go moving forward for the United States?
Look, I'm actually on this front hopeful. I hope that the EU will get its act together and get its 20-plus nations to act in concert. That is always hard to do.
Yeah.
People say, all right, what's Europe's position? And the answer is, well, there's 24 positions. I hope they can do that. If they can do that and get it right, we can forge a relationship, an economic relationship between the dozens of European countries and the United States, which is enormously beneficial to the United States. We can begin to sell our products from Kansas, our agriculture, as Secretary Rollins is trying to do, into Europe again. These would be really important, and I'm hopeful that the outcome there will be really good. And if we get that right, we can collectively push back against the Chinese Communist Party as well.
Always great to have you with us. I appreciate your time. And
thank you, Kevin.
Best of
Bless
luck.
you.
You're looking good, my man. Whatever you're doing is working. Good job. We'll see you soon. Secretary Pompeo, thank you. Appreciate you.